Welcome to Cook County TAP's webinar, Water Billing Strategies Using Communication to Empower Understanding, Affordability, and Efficiency. So today I'm joined by this team, and I'm Ruth Kersey, Senior Project Manager at Elevate. It's a nonprofit dedicated to making sure everyone has access to clean and affordable heat, cooling, power, and water in their homes and communities. And I'm also the project manager for Cook County TAP, and my background is in public health. And for much of my career, I've been dedicated to reducing lead exposure, especially for children. And I'll be providing a brief overview of the Cook County TAP offerings and also Lead Care Cook County programs. So that'll be up first. And then I'm also pleased to be joined by Dr. Laura Medwid. She's a postdoctoral research associate at the University of Illinois Chicago Government Finance Research Center, and a researcher for water rate study for the water rate setting study. And she will discuss best practices for water billings to effectively communicate the value of water as funding pressures for water infrastructure improvements continue to mount. And I'm also joined by Elevate's Director of Water Policy, Anna-Lisa Gonzalez Castle, and she will provide additional insights into water affordability from the policy perspective. So here's the agenda. Obviously, I just mentioned everything we're going to be talking about, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but I'll be up first, and then Laura Medwid will really is the core of this presentation today, and we'll be talking about water billing best practices in terms of communication and setting rates. And then Anna-Lisa will be up and we'll have a Q&A after everybody has completed their presentations. However, please do feel free to put your Q&As, or I'm sorry, your questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom interface, I guess. And I'll be reviewing those during the presentations, and then we will answer them at the end. If there's anything that pops up that seems really relevant to a topic, I will interrupt and ask that. And then we'll have a wrap up and a quick poll about other TA you're interested in seeing around water rates. So let's just get started here by checking in on Cook County TAP. I promise to only spend moments on this because I know many of you have attended before. But what is Cook County TAP? It's a resource hub designed to accelerate healthier water in Cook County communities, and it's free technical assistance with the aim of helping municipalities develop lead service line replacement programs and implement water affordability best practices. We provide the resources you need to create affordable and effective initiatives that reduce lead in drinking water and decrease residential water costs, hopefully. And from starting a program to securing funding to encouraging participation from your residents. The result is intended to be a well-designed program that will improve the health and well-being of your community. And it's funded by Cook County using American Rescue Plan Act funds and administered by Elevate. Cook County TAP regularly updates our website, posting and sending newsworthy and timely information on lead service line replacement and affordability, as well as continuing to engage the Cook County community to research best practices and lessons learned, and share our findings through Cook County TAP. In 2025, we are hosting a series of webinars. This is, of course, one of them, and we've had a few previously this year. One about GIS is the most recent one. And this is to help develop and fund a robust lead service line replacement plan, and again, affordability issues. Our second newsletter from the TAP will be sent in the next week or so, and there we'll highlight important information and lead you to available resources. And we're currently developing a communications templates for lead service line replacement to help utilities navigate the federal and state overlapping requirements for communicating around lead service line replacement. And our hopes are to have those up by the end of the summer. So you want to come back and check our website often. What you're seeing right now is the top portion of our website, and you can see the LSL replacement circled. So that's where to go to find lead service line replacement information and resources. And then the water affordability drop down is next to that. And again, we update this information relatively often. So please check back regularly. Just a quick update about the Illinois State Revolving Fund. There are still funds available for inventory. They range from about $20,000 to $50,000. And they can be used for a variety of actions around lead service line inventorying, including getting a service for GIS, which I think is an important thing that often folks don't know. So do apply for that funding if you haven't already. There's about $3 million still left in that small fund, and they'd love to give it all away. So that's open and continues to be open. There's no deadline. It's just open until the funds run out. We've also just started the state fiscal year 2026, and so it's open for finalizing submissions. So submissions that were submitted actually before March of this year, 2025, are now going through the final rounds of funding applications and loan applications. But that doesn't mean that you can't start applying for the next round of funding. So for fiscal year 2027, really that is opened already. And we recommend that you get your applications in early and often for any type of infrastructure, but in particular lead service line replacement, because the bill funding will end after that, that round if it's not renewed. And one more update, and I sent this out earlier this year, but there was a May 15th deadline to submit your list of schools and childcares to the state of Illinois. If you haven't submitted that already, they do require you to inventory your schools and childcares due to the lead and copper rule revisions requirements to start testing for schools and childcares. So do take a look at that and get your inventory in. So with that, here's the contact information. If you need to email me, cookcountytap@elevatenp.org. You can also go to our website, which is really our primary way to get the information out. So do, again, check that out early and often. You can also sign up for our newsletter there. And finally, I just wanted to touch base on Lead Care Cook County. So Cook County TAP is part of a larger countywide effort called Lead Care Cook County. It's also funded by Cook County Bureau of Economic Development, ARPA funds, and this program is tasked with removing lead service lines from childcare facilities throughout suburban Cook. And Lead Care Cook County would love to partner with you to make sure every childcare provider in your community has a lead-free water service line. So please go ahead and scan that QR code. It'll take you to their site and give you information, and you can reach out to them to start a partnership if it's something that you're interested in. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Laura Medwid to provide her presentation.
Yeah, I'll just dive right in respecting everybody's time. So I'm very thrilled to be invited to participate in this seminar today. This is a topic that's really close to us here at the Government Finance Research Center. Thank you so much for that nice introduction. If any participants or audience members would like to learn more about the Government Finance Research Center, you can find more about it using this QR code. I want to acknowledge quickly that all of the work I'm presenting is a team effort from those who worked on the water rate setting study full-time, as well as our talented research assistants who provided a lot of labor and expertise in coming to these findings today. So as an outline of my presentation component, I've already given a quick introduction about the Government Finance Research Center. I will do a quick summary of the water rate setting study and what we were tasked to do as a part of our study. I'll couch the context of water billing in a very brief overview of the upward pressures on water rates, as well as the implications for residential water affordability. I'll go into the main component of my presentation, which is water billing best practices, and then I'll start to tee up a discussion of customer assistance programs for Anna-Lisa, who will follow after. And if I have time, I will also provide just a summary of the recommendations presented in the talk. So the GFRC was tasked with completing a water rate setting study starting in 2022, and we were tasked to evaluate these 7 components of the water rate setting process that hadn't previously been studied in Illinois. The first report we completed was of the Lake Michigan service area, which comprised of the 7-county region listed in the top bullet point here, in which 61% of municipalities are currently relying on Lake Michigan water, and another 39% may be served by Lake Michigan in the future. The second component of the water rate setting study focused on the northwestern, central, and southern Illinois regions. Some of the data we collected, we only collected for the northwestern, central, and southern Illinois regions. Where available, I'll use the northeastern Illinois data, but where that's not available, I'll refer to these regions instead, but I'll make that very clear. So overall, municipalities are facing upward pressure on their water rates, and we see this in northeastern Illinois. From 2014 to 2020, 57 municipalities had water rate increases above 38%, and 58 municipalities had water rate increases from 17 to 38%. So these examples represent a higher increase than we would expect if they were just tying to inflation. And there are many reasons for this trend. I don't have time to go into all of the reasons why municipalities are feeling those pressures to increase water rates, but overall, with this average increase of 22.5% from 2014 to 2021 among northeastern Illinois municipal water providers, we see that infrastructure is the biggest component and reason stated for increasing these water rates. And relatedly, water rate increases are occurring due to previous debt that was taken on to improve and replace capital in the past. The figure on the right provides a little bit of context here. So you see that state and local funding for water infrastructure has increased significantly since 1956 and is on still a continuous upswing, whereas federal funding, though it increased in the post-World War II period, it has since fallen and has kind of stagnated over the decades. So this leaves the burden of maintaining and improving and replacing water infrastructure on the local communities. As a part of our water rate setting study, we conducted in-depth interviews with several municipal water providers who explained their position and the challenges they face in maintaining affordable water services while still keeping up with the fiscal demands of maintaining and improving their water systems. And what implications does this have at the household level for water affordability? Well, first, since municipalities have such strong leverage to determine their water rates, you see significant variation in a standardized monthly water bill across the state of Illinois. So on the right-hand side, you see the histogram of distribution of standardized water bills that are standardized to monthly at a usage rate of 5,000 gallons per month. And you see the wide variation of water bills. And even in the northeastern Illinois region alone, this is a close-up of the variation of municipal water rates. We see that there are systematic differences between water rates across different sources of water, as well as types of water providers. So there's differences between small, medium, and large water providers, those that are purchasing under individual purchasing agreements, cooperative purchasing agreements, and self-producers. And we see that Lake Michigan, municipal water providers that source from Lake Michigan on average have higher water rates than non-Lake Michigan. And that makes sense because on average, groundwater, municipal water providers sourcing from groundwater often charge less because the treatment costs are typically lower. So in terms of affordability, I'll just provide a very brief glimpse at this before Anna-Lisa kind of takes over afterwards. But there's many ways that water affordability can be characterized. So sometimes water affordability is evaluated as total annual water bills as a percentage of median household income. So that's what you see on the far left. And on the right-hand side of the figure, you see annual water bills as a percentage of income for the lowest 20% of earners. And in our interviews with municipal water providers, there were a few main themes that came up when we talked about water affordability for providers. Many of them emphasized that their main priority necessarily was maintaining the fiscal health of their water system. So with that said, they might also determine their water rates based on their neighboring neighborhood water rates, as well as looking at water rates as a proportion of the overall household budget, which is typically small. So that leads me to water billing. So as municipal water providers are faced with mounting challenges and aging and often outdated water infrastructure, billing becomes more important. Of course, water billing is used as a revenue generation tool and is critical for the financial stability of a water provision. However, it's also a tool for customer engagement. Water bills are often the only regular contact a water provider has with households, and it really provides an opportunity to educate customers on conservation, planned service improvements, or any billing changes. This increases transparency and buy-in and allows customers to participate in the political process of modifying water rates. Water bills also have equity and affordability implications. Transparent billing supports accountability and can highlight affordability options. And again, this can be used as an education tool and promote the availability of assistance programs where they are offered. And so here you see most municipalities have monthly billing. So one question that municipal water providers have in terms of choosing billing policy is the frequency of billing. So 91% of municipalities bill monthly. And this is, in the literature, this is often suggested as one of the best models because it allows households to be able to budget more effectively with more frequent billing, and they're able to see how their water bill changes with different levels of water consumption. So this increases transparency and allows for more economically efficient levels of consumption of water. However, what we found in the Northwestern, Central, and Southern Illinois regions is that those that bill less frequently typically charge less for water bills because there is administrative savings when billing isn't as frequent. But then you lose those benefits of transparency and budgeting and even identifying leaks in a timely manner, which can add up and increase the prevalence of significant water debt. So overall, the best practices that we found for municipal water bills are to ensure that the language used is accessible to the public and described in a way that customers can understand. So avoiding jargon, use clear headings, and use charged and color-coded sections for readability. And just as a through line of all of this, we know most of these suggestions cost money, so that will be addressed in the end of this presentation. But we know that a detailed water bill that's simple to understand is optimal for the public to understand and be engaged in the water setting process. The key information should be also highlighted front and center. Not only are the hard mailed water bills important, but offering multi-channel access will allow the engagement of many different types of consumers. So offering bills via mail, email, text, social media, and an online portal all help to ensure that all customers are receiving this information. We suggest that some strategies could be including proactive and inclusive language, alerting customers about high use, leaks, or unusual bills early. And again, that's primarily for leak prevention and reducing the risk of high water debt. And also tailored messaging could include simple summaries with optional deep dive information like rate schedules with links or QR codes included in the water bill. So here's some examples of the types of best practices that I had described. So the city of Evanston in 2023, they were projecting water rate increases. And so to increase transparency, they not only outlined how much the water bills were projected to increase, but they also provided reasons for the increases. This adds transparency so that customers know where the additional revenue will be allocated. You also see water usage history so that customers can understand seasonal variation and the variation in levels of water bills given their different usage history. You see separate line items here on the right-hand side, and the main components such as the account number, the billing information, and the total amount due are all highlighted and bolded. Here's another example of a water bill with very similar information. I include this slide also to show that there is a lot of variation in the layout, even if a lot of the types of information included is the same. This is a Chicago water bill. You also see the line items separated out individually. There's additional information, and on the back, there's information about the units used to calculate the water bill, and types of information like late payment penalties, and a discount program for senior citizens, for example. There's also a QR code listed here, as well as a website so that customers can look into more information if they have questions or need to contact the municipality. We also suggest that we could take from other types of public service providers, like energy providers often compared to their neighbors. This could help with conservation efforts and help with encouraging customers to use water in an economically efficient way. Similarly, helping to teach the public. Go ahead, Ruth, if you.
Okay, there's a question here
Yeah.
that I thought before we move on might be good to answer. And if you have something coming up, please feel free to move on. But what's an example of accessing your bills via social media? Is it just being able to message someone from the village about the bill, or is there some other form that would take?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Of course, we can't issue personal private information over social media, but we can include information on social media that's relevant to billing, for example. Like on social media, there could be posts about what the late payment penalties are, or reminders on when water bills are due, or for example, something like this that's on the screen right now of describing what the units are used and how that translates to the water bills that the customers are experiencing. So it's not necessarily to say that social media should be used to say, you know, Joe, somebody, your bill is due and it's this much money, but to describe the billing process and describe some of the types of information that's relevant for the water rate setting process generally. But thank you for that clarification. And so overall, it's really difficult for customers to understand how much they pay for their water bills in general, let alone understand how a reduction in their water use will translate to a variation in their water bill. So adding examples of illustrations, for example, showcasing what the units of water consumption look like and how that translates to typical types of water usage in the household could help increase transparency for water customers. And I mentioned water use history already as well. And this is important for increasing bill transparency and customer understanding. Comparing current use to past cycles or neighborhood average can help identify conservation opportunities. So usage trends clarify changes in bills, linking consumption directly to charges. And for the customers, it promotes accountability, trust, and sustainable water habits. Several municipalities do not have the financial or administrative capacity to have detailed water bills and separate line items into different sections and clearly detail how water bills are calculated and tailor them to customers. Also, a lot of municipalities use these kind of postcard layouts for several reasons. It's cheaper because the postage cost is different for postcards rather than full envelopes. So there are some cost savings there. And it's also just technically challenging and administratively challenging for many municipalities to afford these really detailed, clear, highly stylized water bills. But then, though there are cost savings here, you also miss out on those opportunities for communication and transparency. In the Northwestern, Central, and Southern Illinois regions, we collected several water bills. So while we were collecting water rates, we always asked municipalities if they would provide us a sample bill for us to use. And then we standardized the types of information included in water bills in one database. And so here you have some of the output from that. You see that small and medium providers are more likely to use the postcard format. They're less likely to have separate line items for charges. They're less likely to provide municipal phone numbers or contact hours on the water bills. And there are higher instances of acronyms and abbreviations for medium-sized water providers, and websites are more likely provided if there are large water providers, and similar to online payment options. So this trend here illustrates that those larger, higher resource municipalities are more likely to be able to offer the services that increase transparency, and this motivates the need for providing technical and financial assistance for those smaller and medium-sized municipalities across Illinois who might not have the resources to achieve these different goals outlined. So there's also opportunities behind the bill, like I've kind of mentioned already, in terms of communicating to the public generally, not necessarily with the amount owed, but all of the other types of communications and outreach. Websites, community meetings, social media, newsletters, and collaboration with other services all can be utilized to get better public engagement for getting public buy-in for improving water infrastructure and being able to achieve fiscal sustainability. It also allows for the opportunity to provide information about affordability and payment assistance visibility. So municipalities, if they offer discount programs or payment assistance programs or repayment plans, this can be prominently advertised on any available programs so that all customers are aware of opportunities and have a source for understanding whether they are eligible or not. And then also better engagement with the public, such as real-time texting, email, and social media alerts about service disruptions or boil water advisories can increase trust and transparency with customers, as well as opportunities for customers to provide feedback and accountability as well. So I'll provide a little bit of information about customer assistance programs. Here at the GFRC, we have combed through hundreds and hundreds of municipal ordinances, and we continue to do so. And as a part of that analysis, we have looked at customer assistance programs. So across northeastern Illinois, approximately 22.7% of the sample that we looked at offered some form of customer assistance programs, usually in the form of senior discounts or tied to other low income programs, for example. But what we did find in our research and our statistical analysis is that it's higher income communities that are able to provide these customer assistance programs. So those lower income communities are actually less likely to offer payment assistance programs, representing an imbalance. Also, in terms of transparency, there seems to be, you know, an exchange between transparency and providing these customer assistance programs. So if municipalities offer procedures for disputing water bills in their municipal ordinances, they're actually less likely to offer a payment assistance program. So those two are negatively correlated. It seems like municipalities are grappling with being able to afford different types of support for their communities. So here are some quotes from our qualitative interviews indicating the difficulty of ensuring water affordability while still maintaining a fiscally healthy water program. And similarly, across the entire state of Illinois, we separated municipalities between urban and rural and looked at their customer assistance program availability. And we see that urban municipalities on average, approximately 11% of them offer assistance, whereas only 7% offer payment assistance programs that are rural. Let's see, so I'm almost out of time. I'll go over this last slide here. This is just a summary of kind of our findings and what has already been presented. We know that water bills often are the only regular interaction that households have with their water provider, and that water bills are an opportunity to build trust and understanding. So clear, accessible bills help with transparency, public trust, and budgeting and conservation. And optimally, water bills will have plain language, visuals, and on our wish list is standardized formats across the region and state. And this will help to compare policies and different types of information included in billing across regions or across states. We recommend that all charges are itemized separately, so separating out fixed and variable costs so people can estimate how much their water bills will be given different consumption levels. Clearly separate non-water related charges. So for example, garbage, electric, and wastewater, if they have to be on the same bill, at least make it very clear which charges are related to water and which aren't. Usage transparency over time. With comparison to neighborhood averages will help people budget and put into context how much their usage is compared to average. And we do recommend policy support. So we recommend that municipal water providers have access to technical and financial assistance, especially if they don't have the capacity to adopt these best billing practices. And overall, to avoid large-scale water debt, we encourage technical and financial assistance for implementing automated meter reading and more frequent billing for better feedback for the customers. So thank you so much. I'll end it there. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll hand it back to Anna-Lisa and Ruth.
Great, thank you. I think we can go ahead and forward. I just want to tee up for this group. Everything Laura said, co-signed, really appreciate the work that UIC Government Finance Research Center has done. My job in this webinar is to just provide a little bit of context on the water affordability considerations. As Laura mentioned, water rates are growing. There are, as stated, many reasons why we're seeing upward pressure on water rates. And I think it's important to recognize that as much as this is a challenge for communities in deciding and the politics of deciding to raise water rates, we are seeing water rates outpace income growth over the past decade. 3/4, so full 75% of Northeast Illinois communities saw water bill growth exceed income growth. So families are starting to feel the pinch. At the same time, we understand that water systems need reliable revenue. Not only are all those factors that are causing that upward pressure on water rates still at play, we see new regulatory requirements coming down the line. We know that lead service line replacement is going to be a significant lift for many communities in Northeast Illinois, for example, and water treatment, water infrastructure are really important public health priorities that need investment. So when we talk about water affordability, we're talking about the relationship between those two things. So a customer's income, disposable income, and the cost of water service. I will provide a number here that is somewhat arbitrary, but somewhat useful as well as a benchmark. A lot of times when we think about what would an affordable water rate be as a percentage of income, the number that gets used frequently is 4.5%. Something like 2% on sewer and sanitary and 2.5% on drinking water service is a commonly used benchmark, including by the UN. It's used by US EPA in some cases, sort of misapplied to the household level, but it's the closest thing we have to sort of a shared, widely understood concept of what might be an affordable water rate. And then understanding what water burden is, we go to the next slide. It's going to be folks who, for whom their water bill exceeds that 4.5%. So water burden at the household level can be measured in several different ways. Laura provided one sort of map for you, and I know Ruth will share out this recording so you'll have a chance to reference that again. But here at Elevate, we've also produced sort of an understanding of where water burden is in Northeast Illinois. And what we found, and what you see on this map here, is that there's a majority of communities in the 7-county Northeast Illinois region that have at least one census tract that is considered water burden. And that's especially clear when you take a look from the perspective of the lowest quintile of earners. Sometimes water burden or affordability challenges can be masked by looking only at a median household income. But this is all important context for you all as professionals to think about and continue to engage with your communities around at the local level. Elevate has conducted water affordability analyses for communities like Chicago, Evanston, Broadview, Harvey, and others. And if this is something that's of interest or that's coming up in your community as you work on whether it's a rate study or reviewing billing practices and affordability comes up, please do reach out, and maybe Ruth can help us by sharing our report on Northeast Illinois water affordability issues. It's a couple of years old this time, but you have Laura's excellent work, which provides a more recent snapshot of some of these considerations statewide. So with that important context about what do we mean by water affordability, where are we seeing areas of water burden, I want to just underscore a couple of items that Laura also touched on, and that includes customer assistance programs. So developing a CAP or customer assistance program can be an important way to alleviate burden in your community. We even see in wealthier communities pockets that struggle to keep up with rising water bills, and providing flexibility, clear communication, ways that they can get in contact with you or set up payment plans can go a long way in making sure that everyone and your community can be along for the ride as we address our water infrastructure and water system needs. Whether you are involved in rate setting or you engage political staff and consultants who help develop rate studies, consider equity and affordability in the design itself. So we see, if water affordability is a relationship between income and water bill, we see different strategies like making sure that the first few thousand gallons of water is provided at an affordable rate, and then maybe excessive use for your watering the lawn and your swimming pools, and as illustrated by Laura's diagram, making sure that those become, making sure that the basics are taken care of and affordable to families is an important option. Sometimes we call that an inclining block rate, where volumetric billing can help us ensure that the most important sort of cooking, drinking, bathing needs are manageable for communities. Let's see. Prioritizing communication, Laura also mentioned lots of different strategies. There's really wonderful behavioral science informed approaches that she mentioned that we think are excellent. And if you want to talk more about that, that's something that our team at Elevate also works with communities on, about how to communicate effectively with your customers, with your residents. And then underscoring all of this, right, is the fact that even as water rates increase to fund essential debt obligations and infrastructure costs, we know that ratepayers alone may not be able to bear the full cost of the significant infrastructure backlog that we see in Illinois. Statewide, we're looking at $15 billion for wastewater projects and $20 billion for drinking water projects over the next 20 years. So don't be shy about telling your elected officials at the local, state, federal levels that water funding is critical. It's critical to the health of our water systems and to the financial well-being of residents from a water affordability perspective. And at the federal level, we have seen some movement. For example, the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, sometimes called LIWAP, was made available during sort of that moment of crisis response to the COVID pandemic. But those funds have largely been expired. So there are pushes ongoing to make the LIWAP program a permanent fixture alongside existing programs like LIHEAP, which exists on the energy side. So that's something we want to make sure that we don't sort of lose track of and lose sight of, the need for assistance at the state and federal levels. I think with that, my contributions to this conversation have concluded, but if you have questions about, Ruth is your person for technical assistance, and if you have questions about some of these policy and funding requests, I'm always really happy to talk about those things as well.
So we're all good to go. I want to thank again Laura Medwid from the Government Finance and Research Center at University of Illinois, Chicago. Thank you for joining us today. It was really fascinating summary of all the hard work that you guys are doing. Anna-Lisa, as always, thank you for being here. Policy is just so important, and we're so lucky to have you here at Elevate. And to our audience, please come back early and often to our website and see what else we have to offer. Look for our newsletter coming out, etc. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks so much.